One thing off subject that something I just noticed when I was reading the Bible. It was Corinthians I wanted to ask you about, because I was looking up how like the Mennonites and the Orthodox Jews, how they all wear hats and stuff, and I've seen that. It was in Corinthians chapter 11 verse 6. For if a woman does not cover herself, let her also be shorn. But if it is disgraceful for a woman to be shorn or shaved, let her be covered. It's basically saying, I read a little bit down, it was basically saying when a man prays, it's disrespectful to God or Jehovah to have his hat on. Now, when a woman prays, it's disrespectful for her not to have her head covered. Now, why isn't that being used today?
It does within our organization.
The women cover their heads?
The sister, if they're going to pray and there's a brother, well, even if they're going to preside in any, they wear scarves and what have you.
But like the sisters over here, I never saw them, and we even prayed before we came up, before we started.
But I prayed.
But they took part in the prayer. It's still praying.
They're not praying.
They're not.
I said the prayer.
They're not praying? Well,
they just joined in and acknowledged it.
Why are they not allowed to pray without a cover in their head?
Because I'm a baptized brother, and it's. Yeah.
So is it?
They don't like keep it like which I don't. I don't have any.
Is that only while they pray?
Or instruct. Say that if one of the sisters came over here to have this discussion, they should have a hat or some type of head covering over their head.
That's interesting.
Based on
the
principle here, because
the
man is the head of the woman.
Mm-hmm. Now I can see like how maybe that's where the Mennonites are, like the Amish. You see the women; they're always covered. The head. You think that's where they got that?
I don't know. Do they go by the scriptures? I'm not sure if they.
I'm not sure who. I'm not too familiar with Amish.
They're following Jesus.
Yeah, it's an Abrahamic religion.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's where they get it from.
Yeah.
But now the difference between what we understand the scriptures, now all of our sisters, once they dedicate their life and become baptized, they're ordained ministers. So I don't know if other religions teach that as a whole, because I know there's a big controversy in a lot of religions today that women should be ministers.
Yeah.
But our sisters, once they're baptized, they are known as ordained ministers. Only thing, they just don't exercise authority over a man. They don't preside in the congregations or what have you. But matter of fact, we have millions of women. There's more women in our organization than men. And I know they go out and conduct Bible studies and what have you, and they will study with a man, but they have their heads covered.
Yeah.
How does it read there?
Oh, it says, for if the woman, let's see, start from the beginning. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, forasmuch as he is the image and the glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. So it's going back to what I had asked from another study. Women are supposed to be subjective to men.
But it's a loving subjection. Here, let's go to Ephesians. Notice how it's supposed to be done. And that's what I was going to say earlier. Like I don't have my youngest. Well, I guess I use Vanessa. This is my third wife. Her son Blake is 21. So if he was in the household and she was going to instruct, she would have to have her head covered.
Be in subjection to one another in fear of Christ. Let wives be in subjection to their husbands as to the Lord. Because so that's saying pretty much be in as much subjection to their husbands as they are to Jehovah.
To Jesus. In this case, Lord would be Jesus. It's talking about Jesus.
Just let me stop right there.
Okay.
Okay. Now look at Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
When Jehovah instructed him to stab his son.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a woman is as much in subjection to her husband as she is to Jesus,
now,
what if a man?
With Abraham, you can't use Abraham. Jesus wasn't on the scene there, so Abraham, he didn't know about Jesus. The Messiah hadn't appeared, so it was. He was
but I mean, if Jesus were to tell you to do something, you would do it. If Jesus were to tell you to in the same scenario as Abraham, if Jesus told you to do it.
But that picture, something. That picture, all that picture is how Almighty God, like a father, like Abraham, this was Abraham's only begotten son by Sarah. And that just prefigured how Jehovah was going to send Jesus.
But that's irrelevant. Well, my point is if Jesus told you to do something, regardless of the reason, in fact, you shouldn't question him because he's Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's what that is implying. Mm-hmm. So if Jesus were to tell you to do that today, you would do it.
Mm-hmm. But I know he wouldn't.
You know he wouldn't. Mm-hmm. But you can't say the same for husbands.
If he's a Christian man following, because Jesus is his head. See, that's what I'm saying. If you finish reading that, then we're going to drop to verse 28, because he gives an example how Jesus did it.
Because as a husband is the head of his wife, as the Christ also is the head of the congregation. He being a savior of this body, in fact, as the congregation is in subjection to the Christ, so let the wives also be in subjection to their husbands and everything. Husbands, continue loving your wives, just as the Christ also loved the congregation and delivered himself for it, that he might sanctify it, cleansing it with the bath of water by means of the word, that he might present the congregation to himself as in its splendor, not having a spot or a wrinkle or any of such things, but that it should be holy without blemish.
And then 28, I'm going to read 28, 32. In this way, husbands ought to be loving their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. So no man ever hated his own flesh, but he feeds and cherishes it, as the Christ also does the congregation, because we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother, and he will stick to his wife, and the two will become one flesh.
But my point is, you wouldn't question Jesus, would you? Now, whether you think his decision is right or wrong, that's irrelevant. You don't question Jesus. This is telling wives to put their husbands in the same category as Jesus, not to question whether they believe it's right or wrong.
That's not what it's saying.
That's what it's saying right here.
But
it says.
But that's not. If you look at the cross references, we don't give folks blind subjection. See, we have a lot of our sisters that they're not married to believers.
But it says, let the wives be in subjection to their husbands as to the Lord.
As to the Lord. Long as you're doing things according to the Christian way of life.
It doesn't say that, though.
Well, that's what it means. If you look at the reference, at the Lord, I'm sure it has a reference. As to the Lord. Okay, well, here's a reference right there, O. If we look at the scriptures in O, there'll be Colossians 3:18, Titus 2:5, and 1 Peter 3:1.
Okay.
See, we are obedient to God as long as it's not violating his laws. And if a husband is asking a wife to do something,
you're obedient to God as long as it's not violating His own laws.
or we're in subjection to our husbands, or we're in subjection to man, we're in subjection to the governments, as long as they don't violate God's laws.
But say a situation like Abraham were to happen again.
Abraham, like what?
Like being
He's told
told
to offer up
Yeah.
your only begotten son.
Would a wife question her husband? No. What if God was telling
Yeah.
him to do
She
something?
probably modern day women. Yeah, I know my wife would. She's only submissive so far.
Yeah.
If I would ask her, matter right now, her I don't want to say baby son, but I do want to say baby son.
Yeah.
That's how she treats Blake. He's 21 years old. If I would tell her, I'm say to the point. Let me see. If I would say something like, I don't want Blake in the house if I'm not here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to say my wife ain't gonna do that. That's her son.
So she's not living by the scriptures.
I would have to give her a reason why I wouldn't say that. Why I said say.
But that's saying be in subjection.
She would as to the Lord. Say if I said I didn't want Blake in the house when I'm not there, because now I know that Blake is doing drugs. He's on something. I know he'll steal. He might cause her bodily harm, and I know I would have to explain that to her, and she would. She would submit to that, even though she might even tell him, well, Mark, don't want you in the house when he's not here.
But just saying, as subjection to the Lord, that's implying not to question.
No, they're not. They question Jesus all the time.
Did they?
Oh, yes, they do. And Jesus never reprimanded them or anything. Matter of fact, just this past week, we were saying on the night that he was going to be betrayed and everything, he asked them to stay awake. And he went just a distance away to go and pray. He come back. He found 3 times. He found him sleeping. And he comforted him each time. I know the last time he said, well, we know that the flesh is willing, but the spirit is, the flesh is willing, but the spirit is weak, something to that effect. Even Peter. He told Peter said, here, all of them, they go turn their back on you. And he said, before a cock crowed 3 times, you're going to deny me. When the resurrected Jesus came back, he didn't even bring that up. But he gave Peter instructions in John 21 how to take care of the congregation. Feed my sheep. He said, Peter, do you love me? Versus, you would think, Peter just denied him. And some of the verses say that he just got belligerent and abusive, and I don't know the man and what have you.
Okay.
Matter of fact, even Abraham, there's your count in Genesis when it came to Sodom and Gomorrah. Jehovah was saying how he was going to destroy that. Abraham, he questioned him, are you really going, because his nephew Lot was there, are you really going to destroy this city? And Jehovah said, here, you find 100 righteous men, I won't destroy it. Abraham came back, well, what if I can't find 100 righteous men? What if I just find 60? If you find 60, he questioned about 3 or 4 times, where it get down to 10.
Yeah.
So it depends the motive behind it. Now, if a woman or a man, for that matter, if we're being disrespectful, that's when you're dangerous. If you're being disrespectful, say again with my wife, and I don't know if you ever met my wife.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna have to let you meet her. But she's such a sweetheart. And I can't even see her doing it. But if she's like, you ain't gonna tell me what to do with my son. This is my son. All this kind of stuff.
All right.
Okay. Thanks for letting me come.